Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome y'all to the Peace River, Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority Board of Directors meeting, June 5th, 2024, at approximately 9:30 a.m. in downtown Manatee. At this time, I'd like to remind everybody, if you would, just check your phones. We don't want to hear your little ringtones during the middle of our meeting. So if y'all do that, we got Mr. Mark Cunningham, our Assistant County Administrator, is sitting in for Sarasota County Commissioner Mike Moore today. And we got Commissioner Teseo is here and Commissioner Bearden is here along with myself. At this time, if y'all would, please rise for the invocation followed by the pledge. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today, Lord, and we just ask that you give this board wisdom and knowledge, Lord, to make decisions to suit the people that we serve, Lord, in this authority. We thank you for it, Lord. We lift up to you that we need some rain, dear Heavenly Father. It's dry everywhere, and we just like to have some rain if you could see fit to give us some, Lord. We also ask that you be with our men and women that protect us both at the home and abroad, and you just be with those people and you be with their families, dear Heavenly Father, and you just keep your hand of protection upon them at all times as they do their best to protect us. We ask all these things now in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank y'all. Okay. Oh, let's see. Host County remarks. Mr. Evan, probably going to butcher this, Pulowski, our Deputy County Administrator.
Yes, sir. Good morning. So it really is an honor to welcome you all to Manatee County, all the distinguished members of the board and staff for the authority. And in particular, you know, this agenda and this meeting, I think, is a really interesting and important items that are on there. So I do want to just say how honored we are to host you, and want to recognize Commissioner Cruz is going to be on the agenda, and his recognition of his years of service on the board here. Also see that your 5-year CIP is on here with the 18 MGD new treatment plant to really be able to accommodate some of the increased growth demands for the region as a whole, and we know how important that is. And then most importantly, I do want to acknowledge Mike Coates and his contributions to the authority. I see that he has his retirement notice here on the agenda. And I haven't had the privilege of working with Mike too long, but really enjoyed my time working with him. He'll be a huge loss. He's universally respected, and I know you all know how big a shoes he is leaving. So don't envy that, but certainly he has assembled a fantastic team, and I expect there'll be no missing a beat with the team Mike has assembled. So with that, I really just want to thank you for being here, and I wish you a productive meeting today.
Okay. Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay. Public comments. I have a card for Tim Ritchie. Good morning, Tim.
Well, good morning, sir. How are you today?
Good.
I'd like to also say a little congratulations on your daughter's wedding.
Thanks, sir.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name's Tim Ritchie, and I'm a resident of Punta Gorda in Charlotte County. I'm known as our Citizen Water Czar and the founder and president of March Against Mosaic. And what I'm here to tell every one of you is, when's the last time you all were in the Peace River, or the Myakka River, or the Alafaya River, the Little Manatee River, or the Manatee River? When is the last time any one of you were on the water for days at a time, hours at a time? That's what I thought. That's why I am the Citizen Water Czar. I'm known as the tip of the spear. You know what that means? I'm the head man. A point. Now, I also photographed Mosaic on April 18th, 2024. Are any of you aware of what is really going on in Polk and Hardy and Manatee County? Because I don't think you really know. And if you hear a tone of a little bit of anger in me, because I know you know me, Commissioner Langford, yeah, I'm a bit pissed off today. Especially when I'm stabbed in the back, betrayed. Now, I've fought hard. Attorney Doug Manson will tell you. I see Mr. Ritchie at the governing board meetings in Tampa. I see Mr. Ritchie all over this state of Florida. And why? Because I'm doing it for the future of our children. Now, I am not corporate captured by Mosaic. And I will not tolerate any corporate cronyism with Mosaic either. Zero tolerance for any 501c accepting money from Mosaic and projecting that they're a great company, because frankly, their credibility is -5. I want you to know the Peace River is more than severely impaired, and so is the Myakka. And we don't want that 18,000-acre beneficiation plant in 8 clay settling areas at the end of Kings Highway in between SR 7072 and Highway 17. I have made it clear to the governor and to Senator Al Britton and to Rep. Mike Grant and to Rep. Spencer Roach, we want those 18,000 acres purchased, donated, or eminent domain. I am damn serious. And for you that do not really know about the river or the Florida water quality crisis, because I know if you were real serious, you'd never ever would have cut back wetlands. You would have done everything in your power. Now I'm telling you all, if you don't get on Mosaic and you don't start getting on the permitting process, the NPDES permit, the maximum concentration levels, I want to tell you all of the tourism and all that money is going to go to waste. I'm not kidding. How many of you read this incredible report prepared by Mr. Manson's team? Should be the first thing on page 1. Here are I have reports. And the algae bloom I caught off the river and the stuff I'm getting in my sediment tests are bad junk. Good morning. Thank you, everybody, and have a good day.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ritchie. Okay. That brings us to our awards and recognition. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Coates.
Good morning, Board of County Commissioners. This is the recognition for Commissioner George Cruz for service to the region as a member of the Peace River, Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority Board of Directors. Whereas Commissioner Cruz was elected to the Manatee County Commission in 2020, whereas Commissioner Cruz was appointed by the Manatee County Commission to represent the county on the authority's Board of Directors from 2020 through 2023, whereas Commissioner Cruz furthered the creation of a regional water supply system to better serve the residents and businesses of Charlotte, DeSoto, Manatee, and Sarasota counties, and whereas Commissioner Cruz served in the spirit of cooperation toward local, regional, state, and federal agencies and the public. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Peace River, Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority does hereby express its appreciation to Commissioner George Cruz for his outstanding contribution as a member of the authority's Board of Directors, his contributions toward development of a reliable, sustainable, and affordable regional water supply system, and his leadership on behalf of the citizens of the 4-county region. Commissioner Cruz, we certainly appreciate your service. Do you have any questions?
Sure, I'll say
All
something
right.
real quick. Yeah, I want to thank everyone. This is by far the best board I was on for 3 straight years. It's probably the most important board I was on. Government needs to do very few things. One of them is making sure our water comes out of our faucets clean and efficiently and as affordable as humanly possible. So I love being on this board. I love working with all of, well, Elton, you're the last man standing. Board, but Al's back there as well, and Ken's back there. It's been a great board, a very professional board, and I hate to see Mike leaving, but we were on this board when Pat left, and the question was, what's going to happen next? How is this going to transition? And fortunately, the Peace River organization is so experienced and so professional that I have no doubt that whatever the succession plan is you all decide upon is going to keep this running like clockwork. This is going to remain a viable, great, best-in-class water authority. So congratulations on your time served. You've done an amazing job after Pat left. And good luck to all of you up on this board. And keep the water flowing and keep it coming. So thank you very much, and I appreciate this very much.
Thank you, George. Well, while they're getting their photo shoot down there, we have to approve this motion because Mike's done give him an award. So I need a motion to approve Resolution 2024-03 recognition of Commissioner George Crews for service to the region as a member of the Peace River, Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority Board of Directors.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion to second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Now we don't have to fight Mr. George back to get the award back. So thank you, guys. And thank you for your service, Commissioner Crews. Let's see where are we? Consent agenda. Where are we at? Is anybody need to pull anything, or do I hear a motion to
Mr. Chair,
approve?
move consent.
Okay, got a
Second.
motion, second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Regular agenda item number 1. Jim, you're up.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Jim Guidi, your Director of Water Resources and Planning. I'll be presenting the Water Supply Conditions Report. I'll be providing you, first off, just an update on rainfall, river withdrawals, storage conditions at the Peace River facility through May 18th. And then we'll also go over regional water supply deliveries and then local water usage for the month of April 2024.
I heard your password.
You're good.
Technology is a wonderful thing when it actually works. I feel like I'm in our meeting. Every time we try to turn the mics on, they will not work. So we take a 15-minute delay for everybody to come from upstairs to figure out how to turn it on.
Well, Mr. Chair, we can do it the old-fashioned way. We have the paperwork
Yep.
right here in front of us, and
We do.
We can do that if you'd like. We've got it before you. I've got notes here.
Yes, sir. If you want
Let's
to
do it.
go on with it. And
I'm old-fashioned. We can
All right.
do this. Okay, the first graphic you should have in front of you is the Peace River Basin average rainfall. This is the Peace River Basin rainfall for the last 2 years, from April of 2022 through May of 24. There's a blue dashed line on your graphic there. That's the historic average monthly rainfall. The green line is the actual monthly rainfall we received during the 2-year period. We did, you might notice over the December and January green line there, you can see that we bumped up above the average rainfall in December and January time period, which is somewhat unusual. That helped us maintain a lot more storage, and you'll see that in some of the following graphics, than we might normally do during the early part of the winter, which was good news because, as was mentioned in the invocation, since February all the way through May, it's been extremely dry. We are on the threshold of the traditional summer rainy season, so hopefully we'll see that kick in, but that's where we stand on rainfall. The next graphic you should have in front of you is river flows. This provides historic monthly river flow for the last 3 years from May 21st through May 24th. There is a red line that's hard to discern on the very bottom. That's 130 cubic feet per second. That is the minimum flow that's established under our permit, below which we cannot withdraw from the river. The blue dotted line is historic monthly average flow, and your green is actual monthly average flow that we received. As we mentioned, the above average rainfall ended up giving us a little bit of above average flow in the early part of the winter. And again, you'll see in the storage graphics that helped us maintain more storage than we typically would in the wintertime. Next graphic you should have is river withdrawals. This is river withdrawals in million gallons per day that we've taken from the Peace River for the last 2.5 years. And as you can see, if you look at May 2023, we were off the river, but since then we've had 11 consecutive months where we've been able to withdraw from the river all the way through April 2024. By the time we got to April, we were only able to pull off an average of about 4 million gallons a day, and by May, as is often the case, we did not withdraw from the river. Your next graphic should be surface water storage. This is our surface water storage in our reservoir system for the last 3 years. There's a very obvious seasonal trend that you can see in that graphic. Typically, we're filling up the reservoir in the summertime, and we achieve a full reservoir in most circumstances during the rainy season, and then the volume decreases as things get drier through the dry season. You can see here actually in the most recent data that we kind of sustained a higher level of a full reservoir than we've seen in the last few years. At the current time, we've got about 5 billion gallons in the reservoir storage. That's about 1 billion gallons more than May of last year and May of 2022, about 0.5 billion gallons more than we had in May 2021. So from a surface water storage standpoint, we're in pretty good shape, and which is obviously good news with how dry it's been. Your next graphic should be ASR storage for our aquifer storage and recovery system. Thank you, Mike. So this is our ASR storage that we have at the current time and through the last 2 years. Blue line is the total volume that's underground in storage. The red line is the total usable volume in storage. The May ASR storage is approximately 8.7 billion gallons in storage. The total usable is about 5.2 billion gallons in storage. We had enough surface water over the entire year to actually meet all our demands with our surface water from the reservoir system. We did not need to use the aquifer storage and recovery this year for supply. We only withdraw for testing purposes, and that was about it this past year. Next graphic. This is an estimated days of supply based on our current storage that we have in ASR and in the reservoir. Versus two different factors that we look at. One of them is we just look at average annual daily use over the last year, which is about 30 million gallons a day. When you look at it that way, there's about 338 days of storage, so over 11 months of storage in the system. The second way we look at it is we look at the total that we have allocated under the Master Water Supply Contract, which is 34.7 million gallons a day. In that situation, we have about 292 days, or about 9.5 months of supply in storage. So overall, despite it being extremely dry right now, we're in good shape on overall water supply storage at our facilities. Next, we'll switch to regional water production and use for the month of April. This table provides authority supply, authority and member supply, water supply capacities, and the production for the month of April. The total combined capacity of the authority and its customers for water supply is 104.7 million gallons a day. In April, the authority delivered 30.62 million gallons a day to the region. Our members and customers delivered 62.34 million gallons per day, for a total production of about 93 million gallons a day in the region for the month. Of that, 3.85 million gallons a day was provided by Manatee County to its wholesale customers. They are not authority customers. These include Longboat Key, Palmetto, and City of Bradenton. And in April, the authority member customers' total production or use was 89.11 MGD, or roughly about 85% of total capacity. Now going to each one of the members, Charlotte County in April purchased 13.7 million gallons a day from the authority. They self-supplied from their burnt store facility just short of 1 million gallons a day for a total of 14.62 million gallons a day of use. They're used about 73% of their total countywide available capacity. They break that down by the supply source. It's about 85% of Peace River capacity and about 27% of their burnt store capacity. DeSoto County purchased, again, just short of 1 million gallons a day from the authority, self-supplied about 320,000 gallons a day from their DCI facility, and their total use was about 1.22 million gallons a day, and they are at about 85% of their total countywide capacity. Manatee County produced 51.35 million gallons a day from their facilities. About 43.5 of that was for their own retail customers. As I mentioned, 3.85 before actually was for their wholesale customers, and about 4 MGD went to Sarasota County. Sarasota County purchased 14.7 MGD from the authority, self-supplied about 6.5 MGD from their Carlton facility, imported 4 MGD from Manatee County, and their total use was about 25.2 million gallons a day. They were about 75% of their total countywide available capacity, about 98% of their Peace River facility capacity. Northport purchased 1.2 million gallons a day from the authority, self-supplied about 3.3, total use of 4.6 MGD, and they were about 74% of their total available capacity. Next graphic is regional demand. This is a running 12-month average number. The average annual use shown here starts with water year 2013 and extends through 2023. As of April 2024, that running 12-month average is 85.85 million gallons a day of usage for the region. Lastly, this is regional use just for the month of April. Total use was just short of 93 million gallons a day, or about 89% of the regional capacity, and that left about nearly 12 MGD of unused regional capacity. That's the update. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Okay. Board members, y'all have any questions? Hearing none, this is a non-action item, so thank you. Agenda item number 2 under regular business, tentative budget update, Mr. Richard Anderson.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I'll try to get through this as best I can. My grandkids gave me the gift that keeps on giving, so trying to get through it here. Item 2 is just an information item only, but as you recall, the board approved the tentative budget for 2025 at the April meeting with some pretty healthy discussion surrounding the budget, the budgeted salary increases for staff. And you asked us to come back and look at some things related to that. So that's what we're going to attempt to do today. Item 2 is a follow-up to that discussion. Like I said, it's not an action item, but we would like to seek your input or consensus on how to move forward and prepare the final budget for the August meeting. Mike, thank you. This is just a quick look at the agenda here. I just have 4 short bullet points. I'm going to give you just a little update on the salary and compensation study that we completed last year. A look at the historical CPI index that we've been recommended to use, along with the budgeted salary increases. That would be through 2020 through 2024. Some information we got from your customer staffs on your budgeted increases for 2025, and then how that increase would affect our budget for 2025. Just a little bit of the background. The current board direction and what was recommended in the pay plan was to do a pay and compensation study every 3 to 5 years. So we hired Evergreen Solutions last year in March. They completed the plan in August, and that was brought to the board and approved at the August board meeting in 2023. A couple of the key findings of that study was that the authority salaries we were competitive, but we were about 2% behind market conditions at the time last year. So, excuse me. So one of the recommendations was to bring that up slightly to meet market conditions, as well as apply a 6% increase in the ranges for positions. And keep in mind, that's, that really helps us in the hiring process. It didn't really affect current staffs because most staff is already within the range. There are very few that are actually at the minimum. So this was a tool to help us with the recruitment of folks coming in from the outside. And then to base those future adjustments on the CPI index, and the recommended index was the Tampa market, as you'll see in a second. Mike, thank you. This graph's a little bit busy, but this is the consumer price index chart from 2020 to 2024. This is the Tampa market. The only other Florida market that they use for CPI is the Miami market, so it was recommended that we look at the Tampa market for our area. As you can see, I've averaged the inflation rates across the bottom, and it started ticking up really in late 2020, and between 2020 and 2024, inflation's running about 6% average in that 4-year period. It peaked out in 2022 at about 10.4%. So, Mike? This graphic kind of shows those same inflation rates in the green line. That shows the annual inflation rate averages that were at the bottom of the previous chart. The blue line shows our budgeted raises over that same period of time. So as you can see for 2020, 21, and 22, we applied a 4% increase to staff. And then in 23 and again in 24, it was a 7% increase. So again, as I mentioned, inflation was about 6% average those 4 years. The average increase for staff was only about 5.2%. So even though we gave very healthy raises for 2 years, staff is still really running behind market conditions right now. In fact, if we did do a 7% increase for 2025, that would really just keep staff even with what's been happening in the last 4 or 5 years with the current inflation. The next slide shows some information we were able to gain from your county and cities. We got information from 3 of the 5 members. Sarasota County is planning for a 3% COLA and a 4% merit increase, or up to a 4% merit. Charlotte County is going to do a 4% increase. We couldn't get any information from Manatee County or DeSoto County. City of Northport's got a budgeted 6% increase, combined COLA and merit increase. And the last slide shows the impact on our budget. If we were to apply the 7% increase, which was approved at the April budget, the unitary rate would be, as you can see there, 2.567. Applying a 6% increase would drop the unitary rate by half a cent. So it would have about a $61,000 impact on our total budget. And then if we were to do a 5% increase, obviously about a penny difference on the unitary rate. So with that, be happy to answer any questions. I did bring the pay plan study. If you had questions, I can share more information on that, but I'd like to open it up to get some discussion if possible and direction on finalizing the budget for August.
Okay. Board members?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Thank you. This is on. So if the current proposed salary increases get you on par, let's say with your comparables that you've got there, going forward, you're going to be using that index, the Tampa index, in every year, or are you going to, at some point, do another pay scale study?
Yes. So the recommendation, as I said, would be to do a pay study every 3 to 5 years. That would be, at the board's discretion as well. If you said, go ahead and do it early because the conditions are changing, we could always do that as well.
So in subsequent years, you're going to tie it to the Tampa CPI?
That's the recommendation. It's your decision, obviously. But that was the recommendation of the consultant, yes.
And you're saying there's only 2 indexes, the one's Miami, the one's Tampa?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Everybody kind of happy with what we talked about? So what do you need from us consensus wise to kind of Just a thumbs up or?
Well, the current approved budget is to apply a 7% maximum increase. So
Okay.
unless there's direction to change that, I think we would like to have a consensus to move forward and put that into the final budget for next month's approval.
Okay. Board okay with that? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Excellent. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, agenda item number 3. Mr. Mike Knowles.
Morning, members of the board. Mike Knowles with Authority Staff presenting regular agenda item number 3. This is the 5-year capital improvement plan and 20-year capital needs assessment. Do you want to go into presentation mode? That's okay. I'll be covering an overview of the fiscal year proposed spending and projects that are within the 5-year and 20-year CNA plans, highlight the key projects within our 5-year CIP, and then we will be going to a motion to the board to approve the 5 and 20-year plans. I do want to say that approval of this plan does not approve all of these projects. The individual projects will still be brought back to the board for approval and final approval for contracts. So an overview of our 5-year CIP and 20-year CNA. We have identified 15 total projects, 8 of which are regional water transmission mains. 2 of those are within our 5-year CIP, and both are under construction. We have 4 water supply projects identified, 2 of which are in our 5-year CIP. Both are related to the surface water supply expansion project that was approved by the board in April. Then we have 3 system-wide benefit projects. All 3 of those are, again, within our 5-year CIP. The proposed spending by project type, we have $31 million identified for system-wide benefit projects. We have $73 million identified for regional water transmission main projects, and $504 million identified for water supply projects, totaling $608 million in our 5-year CIP. If you look at the trend for spending, next fiscal year, starting in October, would be our largest projected spending on capital projects at $200 million, and then we taper down from there over the next 4 fiscal years. Looking at our 20-year CNA, we have, again, $31 million identified for system-wide benefit projects, $341 million for regional water transmission mains, and $792 million identified for water supply projects, totaling $1.164 billion. And that 20-year CNA budget is not in addition to the 5-year CIP, but inclusive of that budget. Looking at the fiscal year spending, again, the next 5 fiscal years would be the largest projected spending on the current 5-year CIP, but there's another uptick culminating in 2035 with our next water supply project. Highlighting the key projects within our 5-year CIP, as I mentioned, there's 2 water supply projects, both related to our surface water expansion project. They are the PR3, which is the Peace River Regional Reservoir number 3. That has several components, not just the storage from the 9 billion gallon reservoir, but also pumping and pipe conveyance improvements associated with that. The second project within that is the water treatment facility, which will be a separate presentation later on this morning, and that would provide the authority, the ability to treat and provide 18 MGD of annual average allocation to our customers. Our 2 transmission main projects currently under construction. One of those is the Phase 2B pipeline, located mostly in Charlotte County, and that's 13 miles of 42-inch diameter pipe serving growing needs in western Charlotte County. Having started construction in March of this year, as of this week, we have 1.3 miles of pipe in the ground. And our other water transmission main project is the Phase 3C pipe, located in Sarasota County, approximately 8 miles of pipe, 42-inch in diameter, serving growing needs in northeast Sarasota County. That started construction in October of last year, and we have 2.3 miles of pipe in the ground. Our 3 system-wide benefit projects, the first is the Water Resources and Construction Department building. This 5,000 square foot administrative building replaces a 60-year-old water resource building located on the R.V. Griffin Reserve. The building has reached the end of its useful service life and taken some damage from the last 2 hurricanes, especially Hurricane Ian. Our next project is the authority's first renewable energy project. This would be a RV Griffin Reserve solar array, projected to be a 2-megawatt array. For reference, the authority uses on average 2.3 megawatts, but it can range as low as 1.6 and as high as 4. So the projected payback period for this project would be about 7 years. And then our last system-wide benefit project is a partially treated surface water aquifer storage and recovery project. The authority currently fully treats the water that's sent down our ASR well, and again, it's fully treated before being delivered to our customers. As Jim Guida will explain in a presentation later this morning, this project will aim to cut costs, operation and maintenance costs, to send partially treated water down the ASR while still meeting permit requirements. I would be happy to entertain any questions the board has on the 5 or 20-year CNA before going to a motion.
Okay, board members, any questions of Mr. Knowles?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
move approval of the 5-year capital improvement plan and 20-year capital needs assessment for 2025 through 2044.
Okay, have a motion and have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Okay, agenda item number 4, Mr. Knowles, you're up again.
Great, thank you. For the record, Mike Knowles with Authority Staff, presenting regular agenda item number 4. This is the design build contractor for the Peace River Water Treatment Plant expansion. I will be covering the delivery method proposed for this project, which is a progressive design build. Talk about the solicitation that was put out and the recommendation from the selection committee for a design builder. Discuss the contract that's in front of the board today for consideration, the schedule for the project, all before going to a motion to the board. The motion would be to approve the recommendation for the design builder from the selection committee, and then approve the phase 1 pre-construction contract for that design builder. So the delivery method proposed is a progressive design build. And as Mr. Anderson presented April's board meeting in regular 6, the goal of the surface water supply project is really to present true costs from our contractors at the April board meeting next year. To do that, we're soliciting bids for the storage component of the PR3. We're getting a guaranteed maximum price from our construction manager at risk for the pumping and piping conveyance portion of that project. And then this represents the third component. This contract would aim to produce a guaranteed maximum price for presentation at that April board meeting next year from the water treatment plant design builder. So looking at the benefits of a progressive design build contract, again, we've got a tight schedule. We've got less than 10 months to bring a guaranteed maximum price to the board, and even less than that to have it vetted by the authority, and including a 60% design that needs to be completed. So this process brings the contractor on board early to start working on that cost model and start sharing ideas. Innovation and collaboration is a key component of progressive design build 2, with the contractor bringing in lessons learned from other projects and constructability reviews while the design's taking place. It also allows us to produce early procurement packages for materials, especially long lead items. Sorry. So early procurement packages, they benefit the authority in that any items that are long lead, we can go ahead and order those ahead of time, have those delivered so they don't affect the overall schedule of our project. And it also helps us to produce owner direct purchase packages. That allows the authority to save the 7% sales tax on large investments in equipment and materials. So combining all those together really is the value engineering that is done through those 3 components for a progressive design build. And I'll have an example for that in a minute. The solicitation recommendation. The solicitation was advertised March 8th of this year for statement of qualifications, and the authority was very happy to, on April 22nd, receive 3 qualified solicitations. They were from Haskell, PCL, and Wharton Smith. On May 6th, our Professional Services Evaluation Committee met and shortlisted all 3 firms to advance to second stage technical presentations. And May 20th, after those technical presentations, the selection committee ranked Wharton Smith as first. The Wharton Smith team is headed by Todd O'Donnell with Wharton Smith. He's been there for 32 years. He also built the authority's Plant 2, so he's very familiar with the plant site. The design build project manager, Billy Logan, who is in the audience today, is our proposed project manager for this project. Andrew Coleman, seated next to him, is our design manager with Hazen. And then Yue Sun is our treatment process lead with Ardura. And a little bit about Billy, our proposed project manager. Not only does he have a very impressive beard, he also has very impressive references and credentials that were listed in the SOQ. Our neighbor to the south, City of Punta Gorda, on the Shell Creek Water Treatment Plant project, Billy was the project manager for them. And when we talked to them, they ranked Billy a 5 out of 5. We could go to the next one. 5 out of 5 as far as project management, and the overall Wharton Smith team a 5 out of 5 with the project. Go back. Sorry. I got too much graphics in here. And then the project finished on schedule and under budget. So it was a very glowing review from our neighbor to the south. The last time we had a progressive design build project for consideration here in 2022, Ken Doherty from Charlotte County had said, to have a successful team, you got to have a team that's worked well together, that's got a good track record. And this team, Wharton Smith and Hazen, has teamed together on 7 different treatment plant projects. This one would represent 8 teaming together. They also, at their technical presentation, brought some ideas forward about value engineering to reduce costs and streamline the schedule for the project, including ways to avoid wetland impacts, using a common wall structure between our treatment processes to save on construction costs, and then protecting utilities in place as opposed to some costly relocations that were going to be needed. One of the biggest items they stressed is the long lead items for equipment, especially electrical equipment. And so they have identified the items that they're going to be working on as far as coming up with that owner direct purchase early procurement package. So they also address their staffing and allocation of their equipment, staff, project management. They are again working for the City of Punta Gorda on their wastewater treatment plant, and timing-wise works out with final completion of that wastewater plant. They'll be able to shift staff and resources over to the Peace River facility to work on the construction of this treatment plant. The contract that we're using with Wharton Smith is the same contract that was used for our Phase 2B and 3C progressive design build contracts. It's a contract that was drafted by our general counsel, and it's been used successfully for Phase 1 pre-construction and Phase 2 final design, and obviously those pipelines are under construction now. The performance criteria that our contractor needs, or design build team needs to meet, is to increase the permanent capacity of the Peace River facility by 24 MGD to allow for an 18 MGD annual allocation to our customers. They'll also be working on a 60% design. The authority currently has a 30% design. They'll be doing permit applications and pre-application meetings, working on those early procurement owner direct purchase packages, and then developing that guaranteed maximum price for consideration in April of next year. This project's really been under works for about 2 years now. Some of the history of this project, we started with an optimization study, looking at the different treatment alternatives that were available to date as an information presentation to the board in June of 2022. We then secured our owner's agent, Brown & Caldwell, to complete a design criteria report and pilot testing those technologies, which the board approved that work order in December of 22. We brought the results of that pilot study back to the board October of 23. And if the Phase 1 pre-construction contract is approved today, the next amendment to this contract with Wharton Smith would come at the April board meeting of next year for Phase 2 final design and construction, all aimed at a final construction completion date and commissioning of the treatment plant by January of 2028. With that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions the board has before we go to the motion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would just say, number one, I'm happy we had 3 bidders. It was a robust process. I think some of us in our communities are seeing sometimes no bid, or 1 bid. It's just not a healthy environment. I'm glad to see, we had 3 aggressive bidders on this. My experience with Wharton Smith specifically in Charlotte County, they They've always had the correct staff to do the projects. They're very professional. I feel very comfortable with how the evaluations came out. So that's my experience, at least with Wharton Smith. They've always delivered as promised. So I feel real comfortable with the recommendation, Mr. Chair. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve Professional Services Evaluation Committee recommendation and authorize the Executive Director to execute the contract for Phase 1 services with Wharton Smith Incorporated for professional design build services for the Peace River Facility Expansion Project, final design, permitting, and construction project for a not-to-exceed cost of $7,985,696.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Agenda item number 5. Oh, it's the Mike No show today. Mike, you're up.
Forgot my water. Thank you. For the record, Mike Knowles with Authority Staff presenting regular agenda item number 5. This is the work order for the Phase 1B, or Package 1B Construction Manager at Risk Services for the PR3. I'll be going over a project update on the Peace River Regional Reservoir number 3, or PR3, review the procurement strategy for this project, talk about the scope and the fee associated with Package 1B, review the funding opportunities for this project, and then the proposed delivery schedule before going to a motion to the board for consideration of the Package 1B scope and fee. So, project update on PR3. Our designer, led by HDR, has completed 30% design documents, including a basis of design report, design plans. These 30% design plans are broken up into 4 different volumes so we can divide up the procurement strategy. Volume 1 represents the storage component, or the 9 billion gallon reservoir. Then we have volumes 2 through 3, which represent the pumping and conveyance improvements associated with the project to send water across the road towards our reservoir, Kings Highway, and then to bring it back for treatment. Our design team has also completed a 30% cost estimate. A third-party review was completed by SwiftMud, which allows us to continue the cooperative funding effort on this project, and we did submit our environmental resource permit application September of last year. The design team is currently working on 60% design plans for volumes 1 through 4. And our construction manager at risk was approved in December of last year to complete their Package 1A. Package 1A included reviewing the engineer's estimates at the 30% level so we can get a good feel from a contractor's perspective of where the rough order of magnitude of cost is. So that effort was completed not only for the PR3, but for the water treatment plant to make sure we were bringing forth solid numbers on budgeting. They also did value engineering reviews, and I'll have an example of that in a little bit. And then we come to Package 1B. Package 1B would be continued design collaboration with our designer HDR and development of that guaranteed maximum price for the pumping and conveyance portion of the project by April of next year. So reviewing our procurement strategy, we have Archer Western, who's our construction manager at risk, overseeing the intake pump stations, reservoir pump stations, and conveyance piping. That is with early contractor involvement. So we can develop those early material packages for development of ODP and realize that tax savings, but also incorporate value engineering because we feel the best value a contractor could have on this project is to have input on the installation method and the timing of the market for when to order the equipment. On the other side, we have a traditional design bid build approach for the Regional Reservoir number 3, or PR3, and that's because we think the most cost-effective means is going to be having a contractor with those lessons learned and the ability for them to schedule their staff and schedule the project for all the earth moving that's involved in this project. And we're going to see those costs laid out in a hard bid from the contractors. So that's why we have 2 separate procurement strategies for the PR3. So the Package 1B scope and fee, I'm not going to go over all these in detail. Again, these are all aimed at developing that guaranteed maximum price by April of next year, but also the continued collaboration on the design. One that I will point out, Task 5, the Kings Highway crossing. Talked about our pipelines crossing that busy road. Right now, the 30% design envisioned a microtunnel trenchless crossing of that road. That is very expensive to do that with large diameter pipe. So one idea that we're pursuing with Archer Western is, can we open cut that road? Can we work with DeSoto County and work out a way to slowly cross that road? If we can, the savings on that one item would be about $11 million. So that's just one example of the value engineering opportunities that we're looking into with Archer Western.
I'm looking at DeSoto County.
Oh, yeah. We cutting the road, 11 million, we're gonna cut the road. Y'all are gonna patch it back, right?
You and I will be out there with the shovels
Yeah.
for 11 million.
Yeah. Long as we get it paved back right,
Yeah.
we're good. We're good. We'll cut the road. For $11 million, we will cut the road. Yep.
We'll have T-shirts made. So the projected fee for the Phase 1B package totals $680,966. Altogether for the 1A and 1B services, we had budgeted $3 million. If this is approved today, we are under budget, below $2 million for this effort. So the review of the funding opportunities, and I'm glad Swiftmud's here today too. The last time this was presented to the board, it's the total grant funding for the project was $133.2 million. And we received an email in late April from Sung Park with the district saying that DEP had approved another portion of grant funding for this project through their alternative water supply at the amount of $10,050,000. So it's another grant funding that we've received, and that's because the district submits our projects on our behalf to DEP for consideration. So we appreciate the district's efforts, not just with the cooperative funding, but also pushing forward our projects for that alternative water supply funding. So there's some good news. And the proposed delivery schedule for this project, not going to go over each of the tasks, but early on, again, we've got contractor involvement with a designer. We're going to have a good idea of where we're at with our 60% pricing by October of this year. And then that's going to be fine-tuned as the design progresses towards 90% final design. We should have that guaranteed maximum price by early March for inclusion in your board packet for April of next year. And with that, I'd like to entertain any questions the board has before we go to the motion.
Board members, any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would just like to recognize the various agencies that are helping with the funding on this. That's very critical in, the future of our water supply. And I can't say enough about how that participation makes this all happen. And that goes back to our ratepayers. With that kind of help, it helps our ratepayers right down the line. So I want to recognize that assistance, and I look forward to future assistance. With that, Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to approve the Phase 1 Pre-Construction Services Package 1B Services in the amount of $680,966 with Archer Western Contractors, LLC, CMAR, to provide pre-construction services for the Peace River Regional Reservoir Number 3, PR3, Pumping and Conveyance Facilities Project.
Second. Okay, have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, so, Mr. Chair, when they get to that road cut, I think we should have all of us out there for a photo shot with the shovels.
Okay.
And
all right.
we'll make sure we do that.
Yep. Have a ribbon cut.
A ribbon,
Yep.
that's right, groundbreaking on that.
Yep. And you might want to bring something to hide behind too, because when we cut that road, there's going to be a lot of rocks get thrown at us probably. but we'll send them all up 17 to Punta Gorda and let them go around that way. So
Let's be clear that they're bypass road, so they would continue to be able to drive on.
okay,
things.
perfect. Can we leave the bypass when we get done? Oh, that is a very busy road, and it's underbuilt as of now. So we're working on some stuff with that to fix that too. But anyway, all right, I have a motion and a second for regular agenda item number 5. And if there's no more discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 6. Mr. Jim, you up again.
Call to the bullpen for Mike there.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, Jim Guida, Director of Water Resources and Planning. I'm going to be presenting the professional services contract and work order number 1 for the partially treated surface water aquifer storage and recovery project. Just a little bit of background on the project. As the board is aware, the authority operates the largest aquifer storage and recovery system in the eastern United States. We have the ASR wells to provide an underground storage opportunity where we both inject when things are under wet hydrologic conditions, and then we look to withdraw from our aquifer storage and recovery system when we need supplemental supply when things are dry. Currently, we treat the water fully to drinking water standards 2 times, prior to injection and then again before we distribute to the public. It's very expensive for us to treat twice. So our proposed change is to partially treat prior to ingestion. There'll still be full filtration, there'll be disinfection. We only would have a couple of secondary, which are essentially aesthetic standards that we would not be treating to. Then we would fully treat to drinking water standards prior to public distribution, as would be expected. We anticipate this will cost a lot less to do in the long run from an operation and management standpoint, but we have to evaluate that and determine both economic and technical feasibility. We received a renewal of our aquifer storage and recovery permit, our the UIC permit for operation of the aquifer storage and recovery. That's the Underground Injection Control Program of FDEP in September of last year. It does authorize us to continue to do fully treated water at both of our ASR well fields. It also authorizes us, if we can meet certain standards, to inject partially treated surface water underground. It requires us to do design and testing of that system, prove that the system is capable of complying with the permit. And so that's part of what this, a large part of what this study is about. So our study really, we want to look at that feasibility of compliance. We want to look at the economic feasibility, how much cost savings would we be able to achieve, assuming we can actually do this in a regulatorily acceptable manner. And good news from this is actually all the funds for this particular part of the project, this first phase, is coming from an FDEP grant, which we've got for $1 million. So a little background on just our consultant contract milestones. As I mentioned, we got the permit in September of last year. We advertised for consulting services in January, received responses in February. Our professional services evaluation committee then met to shortlist the firms. There was actually only one firm, as I presented back in April. It was AECOM, who applied, and they're fully qualified to do the work. They were selected by the board in April, and now we're bringing the contract and work order for you today. So just a quick overview on how the project will be broken out. There'll be project and quality management type of efforts. There'll be quite a bit of data collection here to make sure that we've got the necessary information. Then we will actually conduct pilot testing of the systems that are recommended to ensure that we can indeed treat to the standard necessary. We'll also be looking at how this, by changing what we're doing, whether we might actually increase reliability of the system by only partially treating the first time. And then from there, there'll be a preliminary engineering design that would be recommended. From a budget standpoint, the schedule and budget is here before you. We would get underway this month, and we anticipate the project being done by April of next year. We'll start right away with the data collection effort and certainly the overall project management, kickoff meetings, those kind of things. And then over the coming months and through ultimately next April, we would have the design in hand for a total cost of $995,888. Staff recommendation is presented here. I can read it out loud or the board consider, but happy to answer any questions.
Okay, we got a question, couple questions maybe.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Cost benefit analysis. So the cost associated with injecting less quality water than what we're doing now, and the cost to actually monitor it and do that, which is what this $1 million is going to figure out. Has this been done anywhere else?
Partially treated surface water, actually, we conducted a pilot test under the circumstances and the regulations that existed at the time a couple of years ago. The DEP has now established some deeper standards or higher level of standards since that time. But there were preliminary evaluations that were done. There are others in the state that were doing the same thing. Swiftmud was looking at injection at for example, Flatford Swamp. I know the city of Northport is looking at things. So it is something that's being looked at elsewhere.
But is it in practice anywhere else?
I think we're actually going to be the first actually to, under the circumstances that exist right now under DEP policy, to actually look at this very closely. Obviously, our system is a public water supply system. Swiftmud's was more of a hydrologic benefit type of project, but we will be the first ones to do it, particularly under the policies that DEP has right now.
So DEP does not have any standards, we have to kind of demonstrate what our standard's going to be through this study and prove that it's going to be okay? Is that what this is?
DEP has a set of regulations. The standards that are on our permit are very rigorous, and I think even more so than the rule may call for, but we're not arguing with DEP about that. And so we would want to make sure that we can meet that standard. What I think I guess the good part about this is FDEP is the regulatory entity. They're also the ones help funding the study, so.
But we're going from fully treated to partially treated.
Correct.
Okay, so we know the standards for fully treated.
Yes, we do.
We're going to try to discover the standards for partially treated.
Well, I should be clear. In the permit itself, there's a specific set of parameters that we must be able to meet before we can inject. So what we're going to be looking at is the data. First of all, what do we have in the water? We have a pretty good idea of that. There's some additional parameters they want us to look at. We also have to then look at and say, okay, how can we treat this? How can we meet all the standards they've established, which are in the permit, and show that we can build a treatment system in a cost-effective manner that can meet that standard. So what we're trying to do is establish what would that system be, what would it be looking like, what would the cost be to do it, and then how might that translate to operation and maintenance cost reductions.
Because I'm trying to figure out like the delta, the actual cost savings we're going to actually have as opposed to the regulations now we're going to impose upon ourselves to monitor all this to prove we're doing it correctly. In other words, what we're doing now, how much are we actually going to save by going to this new partially treated system?
And that is the driver of the study. I think that's what we're trying to figure out. But we do know the parameters that we need to meet. It's a question of designing the system and how much it would cost to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Yeah, and that was, you pretty much asked my question. Mine was going to be what's the cost benefit to fully treated versus partially treated, and I'm sure there'll be a difference there if we're not having to, to treat the water as much before we put it in. But I was going to be my question too. I'm not going to hold you to dollar and cents, but a percentage, if it would be 20% cheaper, 40% cheaper than what we're doing now. Because it's, we're still treating the water, putting it in the ground now.
Yes, we are.
All we're doing is asking to not have to treat the water as much to put it in the ground, but we still have to treat it when we pull it out.
Absolutely.
Of course. So there's got to be a cost savings there somewhere, but I guess this is going to help us kind of figure out what that cost savings is.
Exactly.
Okay.
By next April, we'll have the answer. I wish I had it now, then we wouldn't have to do the study.
All right, that'll work. Okay, I'll entertain a motion. This is in front of us here. Motion to approve professional services contract with AECom Technical Services, Inc. for the partially treated surface water aquifer storage and recovery project, and authorize the executive director to execute work order number 1 under that contract for phase 1 feasibility analysis services in an amount of not to exceed $995,888.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried unanimously. Agenda item number 7. Mr. Coates.
This is the one we've all been waiting for.
Maybe Mike Knowles can get back up. Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members. Mike Coates of your staff. This is an update on the master water supply contract revisions. If you recall, we talked about this in April. There was some concern about one particular revision that we need to make, and that particular revision is the DeSoto payment. We have since had a meeting with the administrators and talked through this. And so I wanted to give you an update on where we are with that. I'm not proposing a recommendation. We don't have a staff recommendation on this, other than we would like some discussion and some direction should the board choose to do that. So what we're going to talk about today is I'll again provide a little bit of background on what we're working on for the master water supply contract revisions. The revisions are required for us to allocate capacity that would be developed with the surface water system expansion program. That 18 MGD that we're going to develop for the customers has to be allocated some way, and it is allocated through exhibits in the master water supply contract. Specifically, we'll talk about exhibits B, C, and F. Those are the allocation and cost tables. And then exhibit A is the DeSoto payment table. So we'll talk about that and then have some discussion. Just in terms of background, existing Peace River facility shown here. We pull water off the river. We put it into an off-stream reservoir system. That reservoir system feeds the water treatment plant, especially as Mr. Guida explained to you today. There is no water in the river for us to take, so we utilize all of that off-stream storage, and the more storage, the better. And so the new system that we're going to be installing out here is an expansion of this. It's a 9 billion gallon reservoir, and additional intake on the Peace River, increased water treatment capacity at the plant. So it's all at this location, and it's all pretty much the same setup that we have been doing for the past 30 years. This is a little more detail on that. The surface water system expansion project will yield 18 million gallons a day to be allocated to the customers. It's a 9 billion gallon reservoir, pump station on the river, the pipes that connect all of that. And it's also a 24 million gallon a day water treatment plant expansion, new chemical storage, et cetera. So a big project, and I think Mike showed you the time frame for the project. That time frame really is what's driving the changes that we need to make soon in the master water supply contract. So, as Mr. Knowles indicated, we started this surface water system expansion project back in 2020, but what initially began that transition for this new project was the increase in our water use permit out here, and we increased that water use permit in 2019 from 34.7 million gallons a day to 80 million gallons a day, and that allowed us to develop the expansion of this system. So we started the siting and feasibility study in 2020. We're into final design now, and you can see that two of the items that you just approved down there, the reservoir, the PR3 reservoir contractor selection and construction, you see that you just approved the Phase 1B services for that, and you also just approved the Peace River facility expansion progressive design build contract. All of this setting up a decision point next April in 2025, where we will have the bids from the reservoir, we'll have a guaranteed maximum price for the construction manager at risk, and we'll have a GMP for the progressive design build. In order to bring all of those to you in April, we need decisions on the master water supply contract. We need to make those changes by the end of this calendar year, or we're going to be behind the curve. So that's kind of what's driving all of this. So what we'll talk about is updating the master water supply contract, exhibits C, B, and F. Again, those are the allocation tables, and then we'll follow that up with the DeSoto payment discussion. Next, Richard. This table shows the current allocations in the Peace River facility. This is the allocated capacity to each of our customers on that left-hand column. 34.7 million gallons a day distributed. Charlotte, Sarasota County is about 90% of that capacity. The requested new water supply that we have received from customers is all of that 18 MGD. Charlotte's requested 3, DeSoto 1, Sarasota 12, and the city of Northport 2, and that's where we sit today. So all of that capacity has been has been spoken for, which will leave us with a total, if we allocate all of that, of 52.7 million gallons a day in this facility. And that's what we'll talk about in these tables. Now, I want to point out that that 52.7 million gallons a day is only part of the 80 million gallons a day that we have permitted out here. So we've got another 27 million gallons a day of permit capacity available out here to service new requests for water.
Mike, can I
Yeah.
ask a question right quick? When can you go back a slide? I saw it says current and requested, so we have our requested. When is there a time frame of when this requested will come online?
2028.
2028. Okay.
2028, the first part of the requested supply comes online. It doesn't all come online at that time because the expectation is that we'll complete the reservoir in 2028 and be able to fill some of it, but it may take 2 years to do the rest of it, so we
Right.
can't allocate all of it at the same time.
All right. Thank you.
All right. This is the first exhibit that would be amended, and it's the new water supply demands, Exhibit C, and you see those same quantities that were identified in that last table over on the far right-hand column. We go from no new allocation in 2027 to about 1.8 million gallons a day in 2028, and it steps up to 18 million gallons a day in 2031. So that is the finished construction of the reservoir and the filling of the reservoir through that time to yield that 18 MGD capacity. On the left-hand side here, you see the Exhibit C that exists in the contract today. And this was last amended in 2015, and it was zeroed out. Nobody wanted any new water in 2015, so Exhibit C was zeroed out. And it includes, of course, on the top, the average day condition, the middle is the peak month condition, and the bottom is the maximum day condition. And those are all in the contract. I didn't have enough room on the slide to put 3 of them on here for the new one. So what you see is the average day condition. All right, next. Exhibit B in the contract is water allocations. And again, that's what we looked at in the slide a couple slides back. And the Exhibit B that we have today, we'll simply add the Exhibit C quantities to, and you get the resulting new Exhibit B capacity, where you see in fiscal 2027, we still have 34.7 MGD, which is what we have today of allocated capacity. And then in 28, it begins to step up about that 1.8 MGD, all the way up to the addition of the 18 MGD capacity, providing 52.7 million gallons a day in allocated capacity by 2031. Again, on the left-hand side, you see the existing Exhibit B tables there, the average peak month and max day. So you would see those when we modify Exhibit B. Okay. And then lastly, on the allocation tables, this is the cost allocation table, and it shows each customer or each member's participation in previous authority water supply projects, all the way from the original Peace River facility acquisition to, at the bottom, the surface water system expansion project. And those cost allocations are exactly what the quantity allocations are. So Charlotte County wanted 3 million gallons a day from that 18 MGD total. That's 16.67%. Of the capacity. They pay 16.67% of the cost for the project. So pretty straightforward, and this again would be another one of the changes that we need to make in here. Okay. So the DeSoto payment is one of the items that we've discussed pretty extensively at the April meeting. But the background on the DeSoto payment is shown here, and this is straight from the contract, and it just says if the quantities of water allocated under our permit for swift mud change, then the DeSoto payment needs to be readdressed. And the last time the DeSoto payment was changed was in 2015, when we went from 32.7 million gallons a day of permitted capacity to 34.7 million gallons a day of permitted capacity. There really isn't any indication in the master water supply contract of how the DeSoto payment gets calculated. There's simply a table in there of how they used to calculate or how we calculate it now, but there's not really any direction on, you look at this, this, and this, and you calculate it. It's just a set of numbers in here. So, go ahead on next one. This is the existing table. And you can see through the years, the DeSoto payment has changed. It was originally intended as a payment in lieu of taxes. The 1991 facility that we purchased in 91 was a private facility. It was General Development's facility. They paid taxes to DeSoto County, and when the authority took that over, of course, being a public agency, we don't pay those taxes. And so the intent was to compensate DeSoto County, at least to some extent, for the loss in tax revenue. This is from the 2005 contract. The DeSoto payment was about $520,000 at that time, and you can see on the right-hand side there what the allocated capacity was at that point. And through time, that has changed, and the DeSoto payment has gone up. The individual payments by the counties and the city of Northport are a pro rata share. It's based on how much capacity you have allocated in the Peace River facility. Charlotte County's got 46%. You pay 46% of the cost of the DeSoto payment in this particular table. So that's the way it's been done in the past. Go ahead. So as I indicated before, the authority's water use permit was modified in 2019, and it went from 34.7 million gallons a day to 80 million gallons a day, average day. There's also some discussion about considering a cost adjustment, such as inflation or indexing. That was never included in the prior DeSoto payments, but obviously we have had inflation through time, and so that was a point that needed to be discussed. Okay. So this is what we showed the board back in April at the April board meeting, and it was just a trial methodology to get this discussion started. It included escalating unit costs per million gallons a day of permitted capacity by what is shown here, the ENR, Engineering News Record Construction Cost Index. And so we escalated the costs from 2015, which was the last time the DeSoto payment was modified, really all the way out through to 2028. And that turns out to be about a 50% increase in the unit cost out here of what had been used in the table before. The result was multiplied by 80 million gallons a day, and it came up with a $2.864 million DeSoto payment that would be proposed to be indexed by the ENR CCI through time for about to however long we want to go. So it would continue to increase through time. Okay, go ahead. So the results of that pro rata share DeSoto payment would be shown here. And they're substantially more than the existing DeSoto payment, which is $796,000. Some of the concerns that we heard were just the magnitude of the change, going from $796,000 DeSoto payment to $2.86 million in 2028. The use of an escalator or index in this, what to use, do you use anything, and the continued use of the escalator through time after 2028. We also heard that, this was supposed to be a payment in lieu of taxes, yet there didn't seem to be any tie for the DeSoto payment on this doesn't tie back to taxes. What's the valuation of the facility? So if it's truly a pilot, don't you tie it to some valuation out here? And the recommendation was that we convene the administrators and talk about this and review it. And so we did that on May 17th. Interesting discussions. In between the board meeting and May 17th, we had the facility appraised. We had a professional appraiser come out. They did a comprehensive look at it. And their appraisal, about $774 million is what this facility's worth. If you apply the DeSoto County total millage rate to that, 15.8 mils, you come up with a DeSoto payment of $7.5 million, which is substantially north of the $2.8 million that the board had talked about at the April meeting. If you look at it only in a sense of, let's just say it's the county government mills only, it doesn't include the sheriff or the school or any of those others, you got 7.9 mils, it's still $3.7 million. So a review by the administrators of that discussion suggested that maybe those numbers are just non-starters for this. And let's look at a different methodology. So the idea was, rather than look at a pro rata split based on allocated capacity, we looked at a revised cost allocation model for the DeSoto payment. The original DeSoto payment was contemplated as a payment in lieu of taxes. If the facility were subjected to taxes, the ownership interest would at least pay a portion of the DeSoto payment. And so the members have the ownership interest in this facility, the 4 members of the authority. Additionally, the members and the customers have requested, or they've identified, future regional quantities from the authority. All of the customers, all the members have identified those future quantities necessary from the authority. And we have adequate water use permit capacity out here to meet those. We've also already done the preliminary design on the next supply, the supply to follow that surface water system expansion project. So the next supply would be a brackish groundwater supply of about 8 million gallons a day. So we've got a rationale for looking at some different methodology than we have used in the past for the DeSoto payment, because there is no methodology identified in the contract for it. Okay. So here was the concept that was discussed. Initially, we tie it to some valuation of the Peace River facility, and the net capital asset value, this is a depreciated value, $263 million. That's what we've got on the books today for this facility. If you multiply that by the 7.9 mils of the county government, DeSoto County government millage, you come up with about $2 million. Now, when we talked about this with the administrators, it was in a lot more detail. You actually come up with $2.084 million for this, but I've tried to simplify this for my sake so that I don't have to talk about .0 something or other. So most of these numbers are very close to the numbers we talked about with the administrators. And this is really an example that I've come up with here. So the new proposal would be to begin the DeSoto payment in fiscal 2026. Since we've already got the fiscal 2025 budget pretty well set, we would begin in 2026 with a total payment of $1 million. That's about a little more than $200,000 more than the existing payment. And gradually increase that to the $2 million net capital asset value times the millage rate in 2028 when water becomes available. Then it would gradually increase from 2029 to 2036 to $3 million and stop at $3 million. So no further increases after 2036. The contribution split is different than what had been done in the past with that pro rata allocation. The contribution split was proposed as to be partially between all 4 members and then partially on a pro rata capacity allocation basis. Ideally, these would be about 50-50. The members partially, the members split would be about 50%, and the pro rata capacity allocation split would be 50%. Now, there wasn't unanimous agreement among the administrators on this, but there was a majority agreement that this seemed to be the way to go. And there was a lot of discussion about how to gradually increase that partial split between all 4 members to grow into the number that would be acceptable to everybody. The pro rata capacity allocation issue was not significant. Everybody agreed to that. It's the member split in here that we need to work a little bit more on, and we have been working on it. So that's really where we are with this discussion, and I'd like to get some feedback on if you think we're going in the right direction, if you can agree with the numbers. I know we can't agree without board direction, other board direction, but are we on the right track with this?
Okay.
My
Question? Yeah. Commissioner Beard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My only question or statement as it is I feel as if Manatee County's kind of getting the short end of the stick with paying the fees since we're not allocating. We're not, as far as future reference goes, we're still looking for other water sources and things of that nature. That being said, a reduction to our membership costs, because I look at Northport, who is actually drawing, and they're not paying any type of fees, membership fees to the board. Am I correct on that?
Northport does not pay a member fee, but they do pay the planning assessment, and they pay part of the DeSoto payment today. And they would pay part of the DeSoto payment if this allocation method went through, because they have an allocated capacity in the facility. So they would pay part of that pro rata allocation share.
Okay. So what can we do for Manatee County? Because, we do have a seat at the table. However, we don't have any future allocation, for decades out.
And that is what the administrators talked about. Manatee County's projections to the Water Supply Authority indicate that you need 5 million gallons a day from the authority in 2036. It goes up to 8 million gallons a day in 2039 and 10 million gallons a day in 2042. So you have plans to connect and utilize these facilities in the future, and that is where your supply would come from. It would probably be the supply that is developed out here as the brackish groundwater supply. So although you're certainly correct, you don't have an allocation today, you do benefit from the fact that the facilities exist for your use in the future and the permitted capacity exists out here. And so the question was, how do we bring Manatee's contribution up slowly enough so that it works for you and it works for everyone else?
The only reason why I'm asking is because, we're working some things out in regards to, water credits, and there's a possibility that we may be able to attain, 50 MGD, right? And so what happens then if we decide that we don't want to, we decide we want to go a different route? Are we no longer on this board? Do we get some type of refund on some of these membership fees, or how are we going to work that out?
That's a complicated question.
So the complicated questions usually end up over here.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Right there.
And so a lot of steps would have to come forward.
Okay.
Manatee County, who's always been a member, a regional player in this. In fact, basically, many times the existence of this regional water supply authority were due to the leadership of Ed Chance, Patricia Glass, when they were on the board, get it started and keep it going. Even though you weren't withdrawing any water, the idea was it was a future capacity might be needed, and the idea that if there was a regional water supply authority, you wouldn't be stuck with that.
Correct.
Which you don't have.
Your mic's not on.
Oh, have to hold it or just push it along?
Just wait till your light turns red. If you can see it turn red, just push it easy and then it'll come on.
Turns red and then it goes off.
Yeah. Doug makes more money than me and he don't even know how to work his microphone.
I'll hand it back real quick. So the idea would be we'd have to work through that. If Manatee County finally decided at some point that they do not want to be a member of the authority, then there's a process that would have to be initiated through the contract to be removed out of process. And right now, that process isn't spelled out specifically in the contract, so it would take some type of, it could be done, but it would take authorization here and from each one of the members that are members, not customers.
Correct.
On the team, and the members under the governance document, which are the 4 counties. Northport is a customer under the master water supply contract, but you're right, they're not a member. So they don't have a vote and they're not sitting up here on the board.
So when would the authority need to know by in order for us to say, hey, you know what, we're not going to go this route, we're going to pipe in? When would be the deadline?
We need to get the exhibits revised and approved by everybody by December of this year. So we would need to know, pretty quick, within the next couple of months, because then we'll have to develop, if you're just not going to participate in that, we need to come up with another DeSoto County payment methodology. All right.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Discussion.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I can tell you, if you get out, it's going to be really hard to get back in. There's going to be a price. I can tell you that.
Always that price.
Yeah. So, caveat before I say anything.
Okay.
What I'm going to say is my opinion. I don't have board direction on this from my board of county commissioners, so I just want to make sure that's crystal clear. A legal question. So when the DeSoto payment was negotiated back when the utility went from private to public, do the statutes just have a simple application process that a public utility would just apply for an exemption and they just decided not to, and they did this payment in lieu of paying the property tax?
All right, so first I'm having to look at documents on this because that predates my involvement with the authority, and I didn't write the contract, so I was involved. But from what I hear from people who were involved in that, it was the Southwest Florida Water Management District that bought the facility, and they don't pay, ad valorem taxes. And so the deal was to put together some type of payment for DeSoto because it would be a substantial hit on the revenues for the county for this public entity, the private entity to go public. So the contract that was put together by the 4 members, or initially 5, had a payment in lieu of taxes in it. And then there was a process to reappraise the property as you go along and determine what that amount would be. But when we was involved and drafted the 2005 contract, there was problems on how that process didn't work. So they went to DeSoto County and everyone negotiated to go to like this amount. And there really wasn't a lot of discussion about it. It was a negotiation to a number.
Okay, but my question is, this is a public utility.
Yes, we are. Actually, we're a water authority
Yeah.
under 373-713.
Okay.
Yep.
Are we entitled statutorily to just apply for an exemption of taxes?
Well, we actually don't pay any taxes right
Well,
now.
we're paying, but if we had to, could we just say we're paying no taxes?
That's correct. We're
Okay.
a public utility, does not have to pay taxes.
Okay, so, I mean, that's my point, because you went and did an appraisal for something that, by right, we shouldn't even have to pay the taxes, because that's just the way the statutes read. Obviously, back in the day, there was an agreement that, hey, this is going to be a public utility. DeSoto had been getting paid by general development, so they were getting something. So there was just an agreement to say, we think DeSoto should still be getting paid, so they came up with this agreement of payment in lieu of taxes. So I kind of discount the fact that you went out and did an appraisal, because what we're dealing with today is readdressing the payment, not readdressing whether we should go back to paying taxes. Because if we're going to get hit with a tax bill of $7.5 million, the first thing I'm going to recommend is we apply for the exemption, because we're getting rid of the payment. We're going back to an ad valorem type tax. With that said, I want to deal with what we have today. So we're readdressing the payment. There's a couple of conceptual components here I like. I like the fact that we've got certainty now, and that's crystal clear to me. We've got certainty for DeSoto and for all the members in terms of what the payment is, how it's going to be laid out, and there's a cap. So all future board members won't have to readdress, reopen, whatever you want to call it, the payment. I have a reasonable test. What's reasonable, what's unreasonable. I don't find what's being proposed unreasonable. I find it a framework that me as a commissioner, again, not speaking for my board, I think I can work within the framework that was proposed. Again, because of the certainty, the cap, and all parties are going to clearly know where we go, if there's an agreement made. So that's some feedback from me, and that's what I would tell my board members at a board meeting. So, I like conceptually what's been done. And also I want to recognize the various county administrators and staff members who've worked. This cannot be a light lift. This is very complicated. It's very hard. I appreciate the fact you're able to boil it down to at least what we've got today. So that was a lot of work. So I just want to thank all of those involved in getting to this proposal. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right. Now I'm going to throw my 2 cents worth in and see if I can muddy the water up a little more. I've looked at this thing, and me and my county administrator has discussed it a bunch, and she kind of kept me abreast of what was going on, and I appreciate all the county administrators getting together and putting their heads together, because this isn't a simple thing. It's the property this sets on was on DeSoto County's tax roll, and I understand a tax or a payment in lieu of taxes or whatever. A payment's a payment. You can call it a tax, you can call it whatever you want to, but a payment's a payment, and I don't think that we're going to let this thing just go away, because this facility sits in our county, which it's hypothetical, but there could be a development sitting there. There could be something else sitting there that we would be drawing tax dollars off of, making money off of for our county. The facility sitting there, I'm glad it's in DeSoto County. I'm not grumbling or griping about that, but just looking forward, if that facility was sitting in one of y'all's counties and wasn't in my county, then somebody would come along and buy that property, because it is on Kings Highway. That's kind of a little hot corridor for us right there, and so somebody would be developing on that property, be building on that property, and so there would be tax revenue coming into DeSoto County, which we do not have now, except for the payment that we get, our DeSoto County payment. On the flip side of that, just to give a little history, I know in the past that a lot of the projects that were presented that were sent up the food chain, DeSoto County, it was a DeSoto County project. DeSoto County, as y'all know, is a smaller county, so we're county of economic concern. And so I think we can contribute a lot of the grants or money that's been given towards this authority throughout the years through DeSoto County, just because we were a county of rural economic concern, and that's kind of how it was presented when we've done some of these projects that we've done in the past. So saying that, then I wanted to address your concern, and I'm looking at it. I've looked at it every different way. I understand that Manatee doesn't draw any water at this time. But now coming over this morning, me and you discussed that, there's a pile of rooftops going up and down on the road. So there may come a day when you need to. So this is the way that I look at your payment. And you, I mean, y'all can, everybody's got an opinion.
Okay.
But I look at it as be just like if a developer come to Greg, my utilities director, and come to him and wanted to buy ERUs, but wasn't ready to develop just yet. But he wanted to make sure he had the capacity to have those ERUs when his development broke ground. He wanted to make sure. So with him making his initial payment for the ERUs, he's going to have to pay his monthly maintenance fees for us to hold those ERUs, because there's a cost for us to hold those ERUs. And I've thought about it 10,000 ways, and that just popped up in my mind that, if I don't know if it eases the pain of the $260,000 and $317, but with them breaking it out into a 50% split, that we all pay the same amount for 50% of it, and then the other 50% is paid out on our pro rata capacities. That throws Northport's skin in the game on paying part of that payment, but it throws skin in the game for us too, because Northport will be paying on their allocation, where we're paying because we're all four members sitting up here.
Correct.
We drive the ship, we call the shots, we make it go. So, if y'all need water in 2038 or 2028 or whenever, you're still in the ball game. You've still got your seat at the table, and the water's there. So that's how I kind of look at the Manatee payment. And like I say, I know everybody's got an opinion and looks at it differently, but that's kind of the best thing I can come up with. But
Chairman, I look at this and I see, you guys are getting the best deal
oh yeah,
out of the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm gonna cut my road. I'm gonna cut my road too.
We're going to cut your road.
We're gonna cut our road. Yeah. But
I want to look at this and say, hey, what's the fair outcome? It's a 50-50 chance that we're going to pipe in. 50-50. So I just want it to be fair. Like I said, you're getting the tax money. So the tax money you guys are getting are just paying for your your water right now. But we're kind of getting the short end of the stick out of everybody, and I get it, and it's something that we need to look at in the future. But we're going to start making decisions here pretty quick within the next probably year or two on kind of what we're going to be doing,
right,
and what direction we need to go, because that can turn around pretty quick.
right.
Mr. Chair.
So that's all I have to say. that's just a discussion that we can have ongoing for the future, but I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in there.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. Yeah, on the Manatee payment, so, water is gold, right? We know that. So you have to look, at least from my perspective, as the chairman said, it's kind of like a hedge. It's an insurance policy in terms of reserving your position here with the authority and future capacity that's already in place, the infrastructure's in place, and you're part of a team. You go out on your own, if you identify another water source and something goes wrong, there's no redundancy. This is like an insurance policy. As a board member, we never have enough redundancy in the system, for the unforeseens, the unknowns, whatever those may be. So, I look at this as, if you look at that cost, is there value to remaining a member for that price to have the insurance policy of having an authority that has the ability to perform and provide liquid gold going forward? That's the thing. That's the discussion I would be having with my board.
Correct.
Just to hedge against, the unknowns. And it is a reserve because the authority is, there has to be a payment involved in reserving capacity and infrastructure for Manatee. And it goes back to what I said earlier. Is it unreasonable to pay that amount? In my mind, if I'm on my board, that's not unreasonable to hold that kind of capacity for me to remain a member. I guess that would just be my comment on it if I was a Manatee guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's, like you said, it's like an insurance policy. And in insurance policies, I get to pick and choose what I want to insure and what I not want to insure, which gives me a reduction in cost. So that's just my only thing is I'm all about trying to look out for the taxpayers here in Manatee County. Even if it doesn't seem like it's a lot, I want to see that if there's a possible way that we can get a reduction on that fee, knowing the fact that, there's a 50-50 chance that we might pop in. And I just think that's just fair across the board since we've been paying these fees for so many years and not utilizing any of the water source that's out there. So it just may be a discussion that we can kind of have ongoing in the future and kind of go from there.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you.
and I know, yeah, I know they're trying to, we're trying to come up with something and, to make it fair and equitable, try as much as we possibly can. And, but I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, I know you're looking at alternative water supplies and different things, and I think that I'd really like to see Manatee stay on the board, not just because I want your $260,000, but just because we've had such a great working relationship all these years, and everything's kind of tied, together to be able to provide water if y'all ever needed it, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure cost wise, what alternative water supplies would cost your county or your end utility users at the end, as they're the ones that actually pay for it. I think if it works the same as DeSoto does, DeSoto County's taxpayers pays nothing towards the utilities. Utilities is a standalone entity, and they have to carry their own. But so. Just looking at it, I kind of agree with Commissioner Teseo, and I agree with you too. I see your side of it too, but I'm just it's something. If I was in your shoes, I'd be thinking the same thing, but I'd have to be looking towards the future too.
Yep.
Is this 260 going to be worth it for me to stay a member of this board? And if I need water, I'm there.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
you bring up an excellent point. This would be a pass-through to the ratepayers.
Mm-hmm.
So that 260,000, how many ratepayers are in the system? What does that equate to? A tenth of 1 cent? If you think of it that way, I just pulled the number out. It could be. It's probably very small, right?
Mm-hmm.
For that little bit, you're in. You're in the game, and you've basically protected your position at the authority.
Mm-hmm.
So I would probably break it down to what is it actually costing the ratepayer to remain a member at this price? It may be practically nothing.
And then at the same time too, if a year from now or a couple of years from now y'all decide that y'all don't need to be a part of it anymore, you know what I mean? But I'd like to say, if that time ever comes, then I'm sure that would be a Doug question or whatever, but, if y'all didn't want to be a member anymore because you was going to go your own route, that would be fine too. But I think for the time being, it keeps you in the ball game. You still get dressed out, so that wouldn't be in a dugout anyway. And so I don't know. That's just the way I looked at it, because I've thought about y'all's a lot, and that's where I come up with some of the little ideas that I had about to try to justify why y'all why this payment what you would benefit from this payment. And I think especially if you break it down by the ratepayer, the amount of cost liable to be 0.000260315%. It could be, but like I say, it's something to work with, and if somebody can come up with something better than what we got here, I'm open to looking at different things. But to me, this methodology here works because it kind of splits things up, You know, it gives us, 50% up front and then 50% based on your usage.
And you're good with the cap, with the timing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 We've done, I think, between what me and county administrators talked, and I'm sure our board would probably follow right along with us on that. It's fine. I mean, we don't want to be hogs because fat hog gets slaughtered. So we're not trying to be greedy by no means, but every little bit helps, and
Yeah.
who knows, we may take some of that money and patch that road back up better than we could. So, but anyways,
All right.
is there anything else that y'all want to, I mean, Mike, does that kind of clear the water up for you somewhat?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it does help a lot. Just the idea that you're okay with the numbers in general. It's really just, how to equitably get Manatee included, and if they decide to get out, what happens. And if we can get with the county administrators again and kind of work that stuff out, we would bring something back to the board in August. Hopefully, something that works out for everybody.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, because the sooner we know, we need to have a board discussion on our respective boards of county commissioners to get final direction. So we really need to get through these issues as quickly as possible. Because of the timetable, this has to be done by the end of the year.
All right.
Yeah, so we need to get to that point where I can get an agenda item and we can give clear direction. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So the
Thank
plan
you.
is for them to get with the directors?
Yep.
Again?
Yep. We'll roll back through that process again, and
I think it's good to do.
yeah, that way we don't wind up with migraines. Our county administrators do. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Coates, and that brings us to our general counsel's report.
I definitely.
You have nothing.
Nothing.
Good deal. All right. Executive director's report. Mr. Coates.
What could that be?
It was a surprise.
He's got a big smile on his face right now, don't he?
It was a surprise, Mr. Chair, until Chris Constance at our board meeting, at our last board meeting, just started saying how Mr. Coates was retiring and he wasn't supposed to say anything, but he let the horse out of the barn there.
But that's okay. He was right. I've worked for this authority for 18 years, the last 3 as your executive director, and I am just extremely grateful.
Hey, you mash your butt until your red light comes on. You ain't got to mash it hard.
There it is.
There it is.
Okay.
Good.
I'm really grateful for the opportunity to work here with all of you, with former board members, some of whom are in the audience today. The remarkable staff at the authority. They're just top notch. And your administrators and utility staff. Everybody's been really helpful. Everybody cooperates. Just kind of an unusual thing today to have everybody pulling on the same rope at the same time in the same direction. But that has really made this job enjoyable for me. But it's time to pass the torch. My wife and I have plans, a lot of plans, probably more plans than we have time to work the plan. But we just got to get on with them. And I think this is a decent, not a great, but a decent opportunity for a change in staff leadership here. And that's before we get neck deep into the construction of the reservoir and the surface water treatment plant. Things are going to get pretty hectic at that point. And so we do have a succession plan here. That's part of our strategic plan. We develop a succession plan. And of course, the intent is to support a reasonably seamless transition from one executive director to another. With that $600 million CIP in process, the continuity that seamless transition provides is really important. So I believe we've got an excellent plan and process here. It involves the Deputy Director, Richard Anderson, with whom I've had the good fortune to work with here at the Authority for the last 14 years and at Tampa Bay Water for about 8 years. So I've known Richard for a long time, extremely competent individual. And I believe that that's going to be discussed in a little more detail in the chairman's report. So with that, Mr. Chair, I want to thank you for the opportunity, all of the board members for the opportunity these past 18 years. And I ask that you accept my notice to retire in September. And between now and September, I'd be happy to work with the board on seamless transition here. So with that, thank you.
Okay, board members, have any comments?
Yeah, I would just, Mr. Chair, I would just like to thank Mr. Coates. My short time on the board, it's only been a few months. His level of knowledge and professionalism and, orientation, on this board has been excellent. I've worked with his staff. We do our pre-agenda teams meetings, and they're all very knowledgeable. And I do support, everything that he said about leaving a professional staff in place, something that was built here over the years. I do sense that everybody is pulling in the correct direction. I'm going to have my comments, I'm kind of the new guy here, but I've worked on a lot of different committees. I've worked with a lot of different staff, and it's clear to me that the level of engagement in the issues we're facing is there, and Mike has been a large part of that. So, and I also understand, he did a one-on-one with me to let me know, which I'm sure he did with all of us regarding his retirement, that I fully support him. We all know when it's time, and I want to support you in your exit strategy for September. I certainly don't want to ask you to stay any longer. You've made up your mind, and I'm going to respect that. So I appreciate you giving us the notice and the opportunity to go through a process with enough time to get somebody in place. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks.
I'm the newest guy.
No. Well, we came on around the same time.
Oh, yeah, a couple months.
Couple months.
Yeah, a couple months. Okay. I just really appreciate, the time that we've had, short time that we've had together, and I know that you are going to do great things, and that you have everything put in place to keep this ball rolling and really moving in the direction for the future. So I really appreciate our time together and our time on the board together. So.
Well, Mike called me yesterday, and I answered the phone. I said, "Hey, quitter!" and he actually told me not to give him such a hard time. But I was kind of caught off guard that he was retiring, because I thought he was so young. But then he told me how old he was, and he should have retired.
Yeah. He told me how old he was. I didn't want to repeat it today.
Yeah, but I'm not going to repeat it because y'all be feeling sorry for him. No, Mike, it's been a fun road traveling with y'all on this deal, and I was kind of worried about when Pat went to hang it up, and he said that that you was the next in line, and I was there through all that. It was a seamless transition. It went well. You've done us a good job. You stepped right in and run the show like it needed to be run, I believe, and I think that Richard is going to be able to do this, follow in your footsteps and do the same way you did, and that's another thing I'll say about the whole staff and the whole board is we've got some good folks that has been put in place, and they know what they're doing. They're professional, they're courteous, they're polite, and they know how to get things done, and they pretty much drive this whole thing. It's kind of like I don't know if y'all admit this, but I will, as a county commissioner. My staff and my county administrator, they pretty much run the county, the day-to-day business. And they bring us things, and we bounce them around and figure out what's the best way to go based on information that they give us. And I think that's what makes us successful is our staff, and I feel the same way about our staff that we have here at the Water Authority, that they bring us things that are in our best interest for us to make decisions on. Whether we approve them or don't approve them, that's on us then. But I'm just tickled to death to be a part of this board, and this is I've had one or two that I've been a part of that I was very, very glad to get unappointed from and get appointed to this one, because I actually enjoy coming to this one, and I'm sure just like y'all, we don't get paid any extra to be here. So, but Mike, we're gonna miss you, buddy, and I think we want to have a big barbecue in Manatee County. We'll have to pay for it.
There we go.
Add it to the bill.
Yeah, add it to the bill. There we go. But anyway, anybody else got anything? Anybody else on the board up here? Come. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate
You're officially okay to retire then.
All right.
All right. And okay, now it's my turn. With authority moving forward with major expansions in water supply and transmission systems to meet our regional needs, we received our 50-year water permit to support the expansions of the Peace River. And the current ongoing expansion work includes 2 additional regional pipelines, a 9 billion gallon reservoir, and another water intake on the river. The authority has been successful in obtaining future or major funding for our regional projects through the partnerships with Southwest Florida Water Management District and the state, over $216 million for the ongoing reservoir and pipeline projects. So our strategic plan for the authority is on the right path, and the authority is routinely identified as a model for cooperation in successful water supply planning and development in Florida. These successes are made possible through team efforts, the board, the executive management, and the staff of the authority working with the authority's customers. Mike, of course, as we all know now, the cat's out of the bag. He's retiring officially in September after 18 years with our authority. And while there's no replacing Mike, there is our succession plan that he spoke of at the authority. And our Deputy Executive Director, Richard Anderson, has been with the authority for 14 years, was hired in 2010, and was serving as a Director of Operations when he was promoted to Deputy Executive Director last year. In addition to directing staff in the day-to-day work and providing all of us reliable, excellent quality drinking water, Richard was involved in the design, startup, and commissioning of major capital projects, including Phase 1, 1A, 2A, 3A, and 3B pipeline projects, the 1991 plant rehabilitation, Phase 1A and 3A pumping stations, as well as multiple large R&R projects at the Peace River facility. He is an integral part of the ongoing Reservoir 3 project and the Phase 2B and 3C pipeline projects as well. So, as the authority has 14 years invested in Richard Anderson to be the successor for Coates, I propose that we continue with the successful program we now have and offer the position of Executive Director to Richard Anderson, and the contract to be negotiated by me but brought back to this board at its August 7th, 2024 meeting for approval by the board. So
moved.
Second.
thank you. All right, motion and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I would just say, since Mr. Anderson's going to be elevated, obviously we're going to have to get that deputy director, backfilled. I guess that would be up to Mr. Anderson. Once we secure a contract, he's going to have to go find somebody so we can keep that
Right.
continuity going.
Yes, sir. And I think that's part of the strategic plan. Is that correct, Mr. Coates?
It is.
Yes, it is. Okay. All right. So, all right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right. Motion carries. Routine status reports are in our books, and our next meeting, our board members have any comments? I'm sorry, I was about to skip y'all.
No comment, Mr.
Everybody
Chair.
good? Mr. Cummins, you've been mighty quiet down there today. You good?
I'm good, sir.
All right. 10-4. Okay, so our next meeting will be August the 7th at Sarasota County. And future board meetings will be October the 2nd in Charlotte and December the 4th in downtown beautiful DeSoto County. And if there's nothing else to come before the board at this time, we'll stand adjourned. Thank y'all for coming.